So welcome everyone to the Pantheon of M. I am your host Ray,
And I'm Chelsey.
and today we're looking at the movie Hush, a Netflix original movie from Blumhouse, and is directed by Mike Flanagan. For this film, him and his wife spent the summer living in a cabin and trying to do every single scenario to see how it works. You know? And this is an 82-minute film, and they really there wasn't an inch of fat on this movie to let you relax.
Yeah.
I know this movie to you was just extraordinary. So let's talk about that.
Honestly, so the movie is about a deaf woman, and they start off the scene and it's just quiet. So you're like, okay, whatever. And then you figure out that she's deaf, and then I like that in their hook they introduce the killer so quickly. Like, it was like you had no time to even try and get a glimpse of her actual life. Mm-hmm. So they go and they introduce the killer, and it's like, oh, okay. And the guy himself is already creepy to look at, and it was like, oh, yikes, okay. But no, that movie was so well thought out when it comes to that kind of disability, because you're watching it and you honestly thought that you were deaf as well, because it's like they kept bringing you back into her perspective, and you really felt like this guy was coming for you. You can try and send a text message, but as soon as you send that text message, you're like, I just missed something in the show, and then you have to rewind it. So it's it was definitely a movie that kept your eyes glued to the screen the whole time, from start to finish. The only negative thing I have is that towards the end, it just took forever to kill people, and it's like, are you going to die? Are you going to live? Oh, you're gonna come back to life, okay? And then it was like, oh, whatever. But in that sense, it was still a really well played movie. They had fantastic actors. The way that they have emergency situations that you would need to try and get help, I like the way they included that. For her being impaired like that, she can't tell if people are actually coming to help her or not. And then it's like, if people come and help her or whatever, she doesn't even know what to do now that they're there. So honestly, I just thought everything about it was just really well thought out and played.
Yeah, there was this movie. It's only 82 minutes, so the time, I don't know how to explain this. But first of all, you're great. I had a great deal of empathy with this person, the deaf lady, a woman, and I'm experiencing it from, okay, if I was deaf and going through that, how would I react? Would I be doing this? And because you're trying to, you were automatically in her shoes. Now, whether I don't think it's by your choice. It's by devices. The devices built into this movie that you are put in her situation. So you are claustrophobically trapped, handcuffed her to this woman, as if you're this woman, and you're not saying yelling at the television monitor, saying, "No, woman, go here." No, because you understand, you're deaf, so you have a handicap, but it's not necessarily your weakness. It's just your situation. And this nut job, this guy outside, who you're right, it's just like he's there, and he's watching her, and then he starts to realize something's not right with her. What is it? And it's and then when you realize, when the reveal that, oh, she can't hear you, and he manipulates the situation.
Yeah.
And then all the devices that she uses to communicate to the outside world is now being filtered or manipulated too.
Yeah.
So now it becomes, and then he's taking his time. That's what it is. And he's taking his time and he tells her, I'm going to kill you, just not right now. I'm going to play with you first. He's like a cat and the mouse who's he's got the cat and mouse in his claws, but he's just pulling the tail back. Yeah. And letting go, and then pulling the tail back.
It's so good.
Yeah, and this woman is starting to, and you realize that this woman is going to die. Her, and we know he's serious because he just murdered the next door neighbor. So there's nobody around to save her, and he's cold blooded. So you know that this is going to be heavy, and every breath, every turn, it was because you don't know if he's in the house.
Yeah.
You don't know if he's still out the house, if the doors are secure, if he's under the house. Where is he? Because you can't hear him, and it's dark. It's night, so you're sort of visually challenged because, well, you're not visually challenged, but like your perception of things, because you don't know what's in the corners. You have to feel the vibrations off the floor if he's moving around, maybe, or if it's you. And then if he's in, like, you got to keep you locking your bathroom door, and you're like, okay, so can you arm yourself? Is there something in the house to use yourself, to save yourself? And it's just, and it's in real time. So you're going through this hysteria, this manic hysteria, in real time. Like there's everything. There's no real cut. I mean, there's cuts, but it's like I can't breathe.
Yeah.
You know, and that's probably the wrong phrase to use right now. But like you're in this panic mode that's just getting to you, and it's like, and then you're right. It gets the gore or the bloodshed or the pain, if you will, kicks in the final act, and there is blood to spill. There is. It doesn't hold back. It really is going for the jugular in this thing. And those who come to save her, if there is anybody, can they get to her? Can they save her? Can she do it herself? Who will die? Like it's just like everything happens, and it happens. You know what's great about this? There is not like, you know, we see like these like horror movies, like you look at the girl like, don't go back in the house. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah,
like, you know,
and you're yelling at them not to do something.
You're silly. There's not that. It's actually played like for real. Like, okay, look, I'm in this situation where right now I'm protected because he's on the outside, but I have to get out to save myself. You know, and how can I make a break for it without alerting him? So there's that. And if I get out, because he has a crossbow, so like if you get hit, I mean, you can't run that fast depending on if he gets you or not. So there's all these elements that are in place, and I'm like, this is just. I had to pause this because I watched this at night, and like this was not the time for me to watch this movie, and it wasn't because of fear of like the boogeyman. No, this is just because like I'm feeling the anxiety right now, and I can't do this. I can't do this. This is too great. And I think Mike Flanagan and the girl who's in this film, I forgot her name. I can't remember. Maddie. The character was Maddie. She's a writer. We should explain the character, basically some basics of it. So Maddie's this writer who's, I think she does is a mystery writer.
Yes.
Okay, so because she can't talk, she's mute. And she's mute too, right? She mute? She can't. Is she or she can't talk?
Yeah. No, I don't even remember her saying anywhere. I think she said like yes or no because the guy asked if she could understand, and she's like, yeah.
Okay.
But...
I'll read lips. Okay. So, anyways, Maddie's a writer, and so basically, she doesn't speak, but like her imagination, who helps like to narrate or process through a film. She talks to herself, and that imaginary image of herself has a speaking voice. And so when it comes to plotting out, okay, so what will be the spin on the story? Like, how does this person in my story get out of this situation?
Yeah.
So when she is trying to figure out what to do next, that character appears, similar to that of Gerald's Game.
Yes, I was just thinking that.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that kind of like, okay, and so that speaking version of herself is our introduction or our exposition of what is going on, where we can't really understand it. So that kind of gives you a bit of a gap in, or not gap, a bridge in logic to understand. And I thought that was cool, and to understand Maddie's perspective and her handicap. And she has like a cell phone that tells you, oh, this is how she communicates to somebody, how she reaches somebody, and how that voice, it's a digital voice, kind of like Stephen Hawking can talk to the person on the other end. So she has these devices that can do that, but something happens in this movie that kind of disables that or prevents it to go out. And I don't want to give, well, no, you don't have to give that away, because this is part of the thriller of like, she can't communicate out. Yeah. And this guy did something to mess with her. And it's told to you within the first few minutes of like what he got a hold of to mess with her. Yeah. And that scared me to the sense that I am like worried for her safety in a parental way, or in a just like a human way of like, I don't know what, this girl is in trouble. Yeah. This girl needs help in the worst way possible. And I just love that. And the build up was like really heavy, and I'm like, you knew it was coming, and you're like, okay, at some point he's going to come in. Yeah. And it's like, okay, and it's the stuff is going to hit the fan, and you're like, you expect that at some point. You're like, but you don't like. Okay, deep down, you don't want him coming in at all. You want her to be safe, and then they kind of help you kind of think that way. Where okay, she's gonna hold out. It will hold out, and it's gonna hold out, and like then something happens, and then you get to the climax, and then you want a resolution, but and then you get that, but you're like, no, I want a little bit more pain. I want, that's something twisted. I guess that's in, but I don't know if that's how they wanted you to feel, or that's just the individual thinking about that. Because I think the imagination was amplified to think the worst case scenario, and you got like the happy medium to where you wanted to get.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't bad, and it wasn't as horrific as your mind would let you think it's going to be. But there is
still a lot of twists to make it like come out being like, oh wow, like I was not expecting that, or like even if you were expecting something to happen, you weren't expecting it to happen that way. Like you knew that someone was gonna die, so it's like, okay, that's obvious, and then all of a sudden their death happens, and it's like, oh, like I didn't think you were gonna die like that. I thought you were just gonna like fall or something. But yeah,
and you're like, oh, we got how much more time? Oh man, there's a lot more to go. Okay, yeah. So it was good. So for me, it's a solid 5 because this thing, I couldn't think. You can't write anything any more suspense than this. This was a tight, solid, suspenseful thriller from the moment the neighbor leaves her.
Yeah,
that's it. It went from 0 to 100 of suspense.
Yeah, honestly.
And I was like, okay. It's dark. The lights off in my house. I got to turn the lights on. I can't do this in this environment. I'm too much into this. Yeah. So the lights are on. Okay, you know what? I got to take a break. I got to do this at noon. I can't do this at night. At midnight, it doesn't work for me. I'm like, I am freaking out. I'm like, this is too much. So yeah, this was heavy. And for me to say that, and it wasn't a horror film, it just tells you how much Flanagan and the writing team on this one really put the effort in, and it shows you. So which makes me want to see the next Mike Flanagan film.
Yeah.
And he's doing like Haunting of Hill House. There's a sequel to that, and it's a mirroring of something else, which we'll get into it in another film later on. But it's phenomenal, and his work is just it's extraordinary. Well, actually, I'll tell you right now, we're doing one of the films we reviewed is The Turning, and it's a spin on The Turning, which is Taming of the Turning of the Screw. Mm-hmm. So it's a series based on that book, but we'll get into that when the time comes. But Flanagan's work, I'm a fan, and to me, he's the MVP of this series that we're doing in terms of the horror reviews.
Yeah.
So what'd you give this rating for?
I would give it instead of a 4.5, I would give it a 4.9. I'm not going to give it the full 5 because I did think that they could have ended it like with a punch, and they ended it with like a little tap.
Yeah.
But that being said, if you're looking for a movie that's a thriller in like today's generation, like more of the horror and thriller movies aren't as scary as they were back in the day.
Yeah.
I think that this definitely makes up for any thriller that hasn't caught your attention in today's society with those movies. So yeah, definitely a 4.9. Really suspenseful, and it is totally the definition of how a thriller should be.
I agree 100%. Like, there's no doubt in this one. To capture my imagination like this, and to keep it, it's just to keep you like engaged. I've never been this engaged into a movie where it's like, okay, maybe you may want to look at the clock. No, there is not an incident where it's like if you miss something that's important. And that's what I love about this movie. It's like there's not an inch of fat. So yeah. I have to give it a 5.
Fantastic movie.
Okay, well with that, we will see you next week. I am Ray.
And I'm Chelsey.
Take care.